met Lara Eisenberg, who is a body-mind therapist. And can you just give us an idea of what that is?
Well, my journey started, a long time ago, where I got my master's, 2 masters in psychological counseling. But at the same time, I was really curious about the body and also the spiritual aspect of healing. So I studied yoga and mindfulness and many different healing modalities that to me felt like more of a holistic approach to healing that incorporated the body. And then that led to studying yoga therapy, becoming a meditation instructor, and a somatic experiencing therapist, which is a body-mind or a naturalistic approach to healing trauma and the effects of chronic stress.
That's one of the things that I like about you so much is it seems like at least you kind of have these different passions and you take them all with you, like into what you do and how you help people. So, these interviews are basically for people who are feeling a little lost or feeling like, how am I supposed to do what I love, like, in the world, and maybe feel trapped, like, stuck in their jobs and stuff like that. Were you ever in a place where maybe you felt like that or a little lost or you weren't doing what you loved yet?
Yeah, there was a period of time where I was working as a counselor in school, and I was bringing these programs, mindfulness programs, into the school, and then my position got cut. And when my position got cut, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do because I didn't know if other schools would be interested in my approach to healing. And plus, there's very few jobs as school counselors. So that's when I actually left and I started traveling around to study with different teachers on yoga and mindfulness and meditation and somatic healing. And then I came back and I opened my practice. And then, it took a few years, both there and in going to New York the past year, for me to get a really good picture of exactly the ways in which I want to contribute. And I thought it had to be in one area. So I was a little bit confused. And then I finally now got really clear. I picked a card about 6 months ago. I was in New York, really exploring like the feminine and the ways of the female, and just part of my work that working with women. I picked a card, and it was about me being the healer of children. And I thought, okay, I'm done with that. I've been out of the school system for 5 years. It's been 5 years now. I'm really focusing on girls and women. And so I was out teaching at a retreat in September in California, and was talking to a friend about her school. And she was telling all her problems, and I was telling her all the solutions. And then I actually met with the school here and presented a whole wellness program based on all somatic body-mind healing therapies to the school to address the whole school and the whole community, and they loved it. And I realized picking that card guided me back to, I think there is something to go, and I just trusted and followed the guidance of honestly something greater than me. That picking that card to me was a pivotal moment. I didn't know what that was, but now I see exactly what that was.
Was it like a tarot card or?
It was. I was at a goddess workshop, full day workshop, and it was a Celtic goddess.
Okay.
And she represents that nurturing quality of the inner child. So nurturing yourself as an inner child, all the children that come into my sight, into my presence, that I will be the nurturer and the healer. But that also means inner child people.
I find that so interesting. So you get this card and it kind of sparks an idea in you. And like, for me, I feel like I automatically go into panic modes of like having to figure everything out. So what did you do with that led you to this solution?
Sure. Well, when I got the card, I was really confused because I had been in New York studying the ways of the feminine. I was not working with kids at all. So when I got the card, I was pissed off because I wanted to get another card that had something to do with embodying the feminine, something juicy, like really juicy, not nurturing the inner child. So I was baffled and pissed off. It wasn't until when I came to teach at the retreat center that I was talking to my friend about her school community, and she ignited the passion that I have about healing youth and transforming education by bringing in a holistic model. And so that's when I went back to that card and really accepted it. So when I got that card, I put it aside as, and then I just trusted. What allows me to get from point A to B, instead of totally dismissing it and throwing it out the card, is my meditation practice and my devotion. Every day, that's the most important part of my life. Waking up, meditating, chanting, writing my gratitudes. What I say is plugging in, because if I don't plug in, I won't follow the signs, and I'll be really angry, and I'll be really resentful, and I'll be confused, and I'll throw things in the garbage instead of putting them aside and waiting for another sign.
That's awesome.
And that 5 years ago when my position got cut, that was a little bit of a trying time. A little bit of a challenging time for me. What am I going to do now?
Okay. How did you, if you don't mind talking about it, how did you get through that?
Well, I definitely went to any workshop that I thought would speak to me. So I traveled around through a lot of different places. I ended up having to go back to New York, where I'm from, to really immerse myself in studying, being a woman and what that really meant. And finding my own power as a woman was part of my journey to come to, I think, where I am right now. So this past year was really transformational for me, of doing my own practices and staying really close to how I conceive, God, Goddess. And then that led me back here. I just kept listening and writing a lot.
Have you ever been listening and not, have you ever felt like there were a lack of answers or a lack of direction?
Yes. Now, I'm going to be really, really honest right now. So I'm a recovering sugar addict, and when I was in food or thinking I'm being over addicted to chocolate, I can't hear anything. And there were times through the years that I thought I could have it again. I can have a little bit. And what happens to me is that when I do have something sweet, I leave myself, and I don't have access to the source of all of life, that guidance. I just leave myself. I become kind of paralyzed by fear, because I can't plug back in, because I just want that pleasure of that chocolate. So that's been a great learning for me, because I see the way in which I'm not here. I don't show up like me. I'm showing up as an addict. When's my next piece of chocolate? So yes, several times in my life, I've felt very disconnected and not able to listen, and don't know what to do next, because I'm not a clear channel. Yeah, I can easily disconnect, and so that's why my practice is so important.
What would you recommend for people who who haven't had the experiences of meditation or anything like that yet, and they're interested in this connection? Where would be a baby step to start that kind of path?
So I think one thing, I'm so big on this, is community. I think finding a group of people that are interested in meditation or mindfulness or a women's group or something that connects you back to you. So I know in my journey, it's been huge to connect with people, and even now, because I feel like in this culture, a tendency to isolate, and a tendency to do it on our own, and a tendency to find pleasure and joy in excess, whether that's excess sex or shopping or gambling or food, instead of finding pleasure in simplicity and in the moment, the sacredness of the moment. So community is huge, and finding a class or something that you're interested in that has to do with this exact thing, with mindfulness, with personal growth. That would be my biggest suggestion: getting connected, hooked up with community, And eventually that will lead you to getting connected and hooked up with yourself. Sometimes we need others to hold that mirror and be that reflection for us.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, not showing up, but like calling. The first step is just calling and saying, this is where I am. And of course, there's also several practitioners that, are aware of these kind of things and know the value of them.
Yeah.
And connecting with them as well. That's been big in my journey too. Connecting with people. But if it had to be via Skype, because I was the only person across the country, I would do it via Skype.
Yeah, it's so true, because I don't know, I've just on my own journey have had, it's like the relationships that were surrounding me at one point just didn't work anymore. And it's like you need to find other people who don't think you're crazy or that you're wasting your time or that just can't connect with you, because it's just a downer.
When I went back to New York and I connected with some old friends that I love, but they have different lifestyles, big drinking or going out and partying, which is like complete opposite than my lifestyle. And my work in that area was to accept that these relationships will never be the same. There'll be some distance, and how can I still practice love and acceptance for where they are, knowing that my journey is in another direction.
Yeah.
So, but in the Bhagavad Gita, one of these yogic texts, that it says environment is stronger than will, and I found that to be true. That if we're around a lot of people that have different values or different lifestyle, it's very hard to remain connected to what we really want, because the environment is not feeding us and not supporting our bigger, greater dreams and goals and values. So,
do you have any tips or thoughts about like when you're in transition and sometimes you just have to be places and you haven't moved through it yet, how to deal with that when you're kind of like the odd one out and this is not what you want, but you have to be here?
Yeah. So what I've done in those situations, and what I've always told clients or students, is something that brings you back to yourself. So for me, I have in my travels just different spiritual teachers that have really been a source of healing and enlightenment and safety and meaning and purpose. And I've taken either a picture of them or perfume made in their ashram or something. I've taken that with me, or even a piece of jewelry that was symbolic, something that reminds us, like a resource, something that reminds us of why we're here.
I feel, and I could be wrong, but I get the feeling that you just have a lot of trust and faith that things will flow the way they're supposed to. Is that?
Yeah, when I'm connected to my practice, I literally feel like, since I've been here, it's been 2 weeks that I came back to San Diego, and the amount of love and gratitude that I've been feeling is so powerful, and trust, and that's because of my practice. Like when I'm not practicing, or like I said, if I'm involved in chocolate, my life I don't have that level. It's not true, I have faith, because my life is kind of surrounded by it, but the amount of faith and the amount of trust and the amount of surrender is nothing like the way it is when I'm completely committed to my practice. But there's got to be something where I know that I'm being of service.
You can tell just by going to your workshops and stuff, you know how you can tell when people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you can definitely see that with you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really appreciative that you let me interview you. I think I have this small list of people that I feel are magical people, and you're one of them. Because people you can tell who the people are who are in touch and have a bigger vision, and there should be more people like that. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.